Hey guys, Pole Position RC here for you to show you how to remove, take apart, and grease the transfer case, the center transfer case for the HPI Venture FJ. So what we've got here is the center transfer case. We've got a steel shaft going into this steel cup, and then we have 3 gears inside here, and then steel outdrives going into steel outdrive shafts going into these steel universal joints. So we're going to grease the joints and basically grease up everything and make it sure it's nice and watertight. So the first thing we're going to be doing is removing these pins holding the universals on. These are just 1.5 mil hex wrenches. Is all you need, and we just need to turn this one, the front one, just a bit. And what this does is it releases the center drive shafts. You can hear the thread locking compound just cracking on that front one. So we'll make sure we put some more thread locker on there when we put it back. And now we take a 2 mil wrench and we just remove these 4 screws there. So we'll do that real quick. Okay, so we've undone the 4 screws, and those are flathead, look like 10 mil screws. Just a 2 mil hex wrench is all you need. And basically, you can now just remove the center drive transfer case. You do have this steel dog bone. Don't lose that, because that's what gets your power from your front transmission to the transfer case. And we're basically just going to pull out carefully. Well, actually, probably easier if we just remove from the pins there. So now we've got this sort of 3-gear transmission. When we before we put this back, we're just going to remember to grease up these connectors really nicely, so it prevents rust. Okay, so now you can see we've been doing some greasing already. We're a little bit messy, so we just have 3 screws. These are a little bit longer, so we'll take off the other 2. Okay, so we've got the 3 screws out, and now we're just going to crack the case just a bit. And there's our 3 gears. So you've got your input gear there, and then we've got the reduction gears that go to this shaft, which feeds into your front and rear center drive shafts. Okay, so looks like this could use a little bit more grease on it, and we're going to make sure we get grease on these bearings also, inside and outside. So basically, we're just going to use the shaft to pull out the bearings, and these are pretty easy to get out. And I've tried being very neat with wearing gloves and all sorts of things, but it doesn't really work. It just still get really messy. So looks like there's another bearing. I'm just going to remove this drive cup, and that goes all the way through. It's actually a good sign. Shows you how sturdy everything is. So that drive cup comes out, and then there's that input shaft, and there's a bunch of metal shielded bearings there. So what I've got here is some Lucas Oil Red and Tacky. It's just a sort of a general purpose, very corrosion resistant, waterproof grease. No, it's not the correct marine grease, but you know, it doesn't really matter all that much. See if I can remember how to put these back in the correct placement. I know it's not the same grease that a lot of people seem to be using, but you know what? I'm not going to be driving. This isn't going to be doing as much work as a real boat. And while I don't want to be replacing gears, bearings, and whatnot all the time, I'm not that concerned that I'm going to spend all the extra money to get a grease gun and all that stuff. It's just a little bit too much hassle for me, so I'm happy with the levels that I'm going here. So you can see I'm getting grease all inside that, on both sides of all the gears, bearings. I want to make sure I get it inside the screw holes, because that's just another water ingress point, and then all nicely seal up the edges of this transfer case. Okay, so that's about right. And let me just confirm here. We got the little gear going there. I'm going to get some grease on that. Of course, going to make sure and spin it up and check that the grease has gotten everywhere. I'm going to get these gears in place, or bearings in place. Knew that was going to happen at some point. Okay, and now the big one. That's quite a deep hole to get a finger into, so I'm just going to go ahead and do both sides now. Could just as easily put it on the side there. Okay, or put it on the bearing. Put the bearings on the shaft there and do it that way, but that's fine. Okay, so now we're just gonna put that there and get some more grease on that gear. I don't want to completely fill the case with grease, because then it overloads things. So that is probably enough there. Maybe, well, hopefully not too much, but it's probably enough. And then that's the output shaft side there. So there we are with we've got all the outside joins greased up quite nicely. And now we're just going to close it up with these 3 screws. And there we are. We've got our transfer case all ready to go. Okay, so we've already greased up the other end of the dog bone. And now we just have to fit it fit the drive shaft's ends on while not losing the end of the dog bone. Okay, there we are. It was quicker than I thought it would be. So now again, just going to get the 1.5 mil wrench, a tiny dab of thread lock on there, the red, because that's just what I happen to have on hand. Normally it'd be the blue. So putting that in place. And just a little bit again on the front drive shaft. Okay. And then just putting that in the position. And now we attach the, install the flathead screws back into the bottom of the transfer case. Alright, so there we are. Everything's nice and watertight on that center transfer case. Okay, so hopefully you guys found that helpful. If you did, please give us a thumbs up and don't forget to hit that subscribe button next to the channel logo. There are plenty of other videos in the playlist, including waterproofing your axles and waterproofing your servo and a bunch of other things. And there's more to come. So please check those out, and thanks for watching. So we'll catch you in the next video.